Hello, everyone. This is Inside Man United. My name is Rowan Brennan. This is a brand new Man United fan channel on YouTube, and this is episode 1. So please excuse any mistakes along the way. Just getting to grips with this myself. But I wanted to make sure we got episode 1 out in time for the Wolves game, which is kicking off on Monday. I've just seen all of Saturday's games and seen Newcastle completely dismantle Aston Villa 5-1, an absolute cracker of a game. And just want to try and get into this now and do a quick review of United's transfers so far, the preseason that they've had, the rumour mill, and who we could potentially be bringing in between now and the end of the window, and then a little bit of a preview before we kick off against Wolves. Let's get it started. First player through the window was Mason Mount. I was lucky enough to see Mount's debut in Old Trafford playing against Lens, where Rasmus Haaland was also unveiled as a United player and was lucky enough to be sitting reasonably close to the penalty area, kind of right on the edge of the box, looking at Onana playing 20 yards off his line. And it was a great game. Mount did miss a bit of a sitter, but it seems United's pre-season has been pretty mixed overall, but there's no point really looking too much into pre-season. As we've seen in seasons past with Van Gaal, we had an all-conquering pre-season tour, beating giants along the way, looking very, very assured. And then we lose our first game against Swansea at the beginning of the season. I think we ended up somewhere around 10th or 12th around Christmas time. So pre-season, not always a great barometer of how the team is going to play. It's more about really getting fitness up, trying different systems, trying different players, particularly youth players, and seeing if any of them can give the manager some selection headaches and stake a place either for the bench or maybe even to start. So how have United's new signings settled in so far? Onana played very, very well. It's quite clear that he is going to completely change how United play, being able to bring up a higher line. He plays around 20 yards outside of the D. He's in between the penalty box and the midfield line. That's where he stays for the majority of the game. Now, of course, the journalists and the media were going to jump all over the goal that we conceded when he got lobbed, and it was all the pictures of him crashed into the net, all about can he be trusted? Are there going to be more gaffes like this during the season? First and foremost, that mistake was completely down to Diogo Dalot. He made about 3 or 4 mistakes, very similar mistakes, giving the ball away very, very cheaply in our half, one of which led to the goal against Onana. So really the way Onana wants to play does rely on our defence being able to retain possession quite high up the pitch and not allowing themselves to succumb to that pressure of a high press from opposing teams. He does need that. There will be mistakes during the season. That is absolutely inevitable. But would I be willing to trade 3, 4, perhaps 5 goals through stupidity, errors and mistakes to allow United to play in a completely different way over the course of 38 games in the season? The simple answer is yes. His ability to spray passes from deep to set up attacks, either to the player that's going to lay on the pass or the assist, or directly to the striker running into the box. His ability to cut through channels, open up play, bypass a high line was very obvious to see, and I think it's going to bring a very exciting new dimension to how United are going to be able to play, and I think it's going to lead to a lot more points during the season, with attacks being set up basically from our goalkeeper, which was something that was sorely lacking under David De Gea's stewardship, who I think might be joining Real Madrid now that Courtois has got that injury. And to be honest, delighted for him if he's going to be able to join Madrid, maybe get a La Liga title, a Champions League title, or something under his belt. I think his trophy cabinet is a little bare, given the performances and the career that he's had, despite having won everything in the English game, plus a European title. I think the only trophy he hasn't won is the Champions League, to be honest. So wish him all the luck there. Mason Mount. He was a strange transfer for a lot of people when he was coming in. We didn't really know why or what he was going to do. A lot of people don't really rate him. And to be honest, I was one of them. I don't think he's a bad player by any stretch of the imagination, but do I think he's the kind of player that can really inject a huge amount of progress into how we play. I think that remains to be seen. The jury is still out. He didn't have an incredible preseason. It wasn't terrible, but he didn't have too many chances himself, didn't set up a whole lot himself. But I think what Mount is there to do is to provide a lot more energy in the middle of the park. We don't have a lot of speed between Eriksen, Casemiro, Fernandez. And I think what Mount is going to do is a lot of running around and a lot of pressing, harrying. He's going to have the ball for maybe 1 or 2 seconds and then lay it off to Bruno or Casemiro or one of the other front three players. I think that's going to be his job. Pick the ball up and get rid of it as soon as possible, just to keep the play going, the flow going, pull players out of position. I don't think he's going to be a 10-15 goal or 10-15 assist kind of player. I think his game is a little bit different. I think he's there to facilitate certainly Bruno's forward play. But as we saw last season, Casemiro has a bit of an eye for goal himself, quite reminiscent of an early Roy Keane, being able to get into those box positions late, scoring a lot of goals, and he's shown to be a real threat. He certainly did last season. He scored a nice goal at that Lens game as well. So I think that's what Mount is going to do. Reasonable price tag, given what we've seen other players going forward this summer. He's young, 24, quite coachable. Ten Hag seems to really like him. I think he's going to bring a lot of energy into the team. I look forward to seeing what he can do and to develop a better relationship and understanding with those other midfield players. Another player that we've brought in, Rasmus Haaland. Unfortunately, we haven't got to see him play yet. I think there's a lot of weight being put on the shoulders of a very young 20-year-old with 9 Serie A goals to his name. They're saying that he's played 30 plus games, but we can't let these kind of statistics lie to us, because they do. In those 36 games or 34 games, he's only played about 1,800 minutes, which is roughly about 20 games. So his conversion rate's 1 and 2 for a 20-year-old. That is quite good. Quite a deep lying striker. These comparisons to Haaland are quite tiresome. I wish the media would stop doing it, just because they're tall, blonde, young, with a surname that ends in land, and they're from Scandinavia. That's pretty much where the comparisons stop. As players, they probably couldn't be more different. Whereas Haaland likes to kind of stick close to the defensive line, to go on those breakaways, uses power and his speed to beat those defenders and to get through on goal. Rasmus Haaland is very much a deep lying striker, very similar to what you would have seen Harry Kane and Son doing during that season, where they were just scoring goals for fun. Kane picking up the ball quite deep and then bringing those other wide players in. That's precisely what I think Haaland is going to be doing. He's going to be facilitating a lot of goals in from Antony and Rashford as well. He comes in a lot from the left. He does play quite deep. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do. It is a huge weight of responsibility. I think Ten Hag would ideally have liked to have gotten Kane and Haaland in for 30 or 40 million. It hasn't worked out that way. With Martial's injury record, we don't really have a lot of options up on that forward line. And to have Haaland leading the line when he gets back from injury, I think he's going to be out for about 2 months. It's a huge responsibility. So I am expecting United to potentially bring in another striker. Probably not a starting striker, but someone who can certainly play backup, and probably someone who can play immediately to cover for Haaland. Will Sancho continue to play that false 9 position that he was playing during pre-season? Who knows? He did reasonably okay. He might be able to get some minutes and get some fitness playing that position, seeing as Marcus Rashford has made it quite clear. He spoke to Gary Neville a few weeks ago, stating that coming in from the left is the position he wants to play. That's precisely where he expects to play, which can present other problems for one Alejandro Garnacho, who has had a breakout season last season. A huge talent, very aggressive, full of confidence, a game-changing player who's able to turn a game on its head, as he did so often last season. Even did it during the FA Cup final when he came on, but unfortunately didn't have enough time to impact the game. So it's very interesting to see how United are going to play with the players currently available and the injuries that are currently holding us back. In terms of what's remaining transfer-wise, it looks like Amrabat is going to be quite close. That is a player I think we desperately need. Certainly for Casemiro, even during that warm-up game against Lens, Casemiro's legs looked a little bit heavy, and they're not going to be getting any quicker as he gets more into his 30s. But I think cover for that position is very, very important. We certainly missed him when he was suspended last season. He played, I think, more games last season for United than he'd ever played in Madrid, even with those suspensions. So having cover for Casemiro is going to be very, very important. And I think Amrabat's going to be more than just a sub. His statistics, again, can be quite misleading. He doesn't kind of rank very high up the charts for breaking up play, winning back possession, tackles, won, all that kind of stuff. The reason being is he plays for a Fiorentina team that has the second highest level of possession in Serie A. So he doesn't really get to do what he's designed to do as often as other players in those positions. So again, don't read too much into those statistics. I always believe my own eyes. When I saw him playing for Morocco, they were a far more defensive team. They didn't have possession as much. And we really got to see Amrabat do what he does, which was break up play, destroy the middle of the park, stop other teams from playing. But he's also got quite an eye for deep line playmaking passes, spraying it across the pitch. Got a very high completion rate for those kind of mid to long range passes. And I think he's going to be a very, very valuable addition to that United team. Over the course of the season, I think he's going to get an awful lot of games, perhaps playing alongside Casemiro against those teams that might have more possession, the likes of Liverpool, City, Arsenal, that will want to dominate the midfield with those box midfields where they play a more 3-2-2-3. I think Amrabat and Casemiro playing together is going to be very, very important for those types of games, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does when he comes into the fold. Finally, United are looking at different defenders. Benjamin Pavard is still on the radar, a very flexible player, a born winner, has done nothing but succeed at every team he's been at, a World Cup winner, Champions League winner, multiple Bundesliga titles, if that is much of an achievement. Sorry, Harry Kane. But Pavard would be a great addition. Not only can he play defensive midfield, a position he has played before, he's very comfortable at right back. He's very comfortable at centre half. He will provide a lot of options for that United backline, even in the midfield, if needs be. And we do know Erik Ten Hag loves a player that's got a lot of flexibility in the way they can play, being able to cover multiple positions. So Pavard could be a very useful addition. There are other youth players playing in France, Todibo being one of them, very highly rated. I can't say I've seen a huge amount of him play, but seems to be a specialist right back as opposed to someone who can play multiple different types of position. Who we prefer, I really don't know. But if we got Benjamin Pavard in through the door with Amrabat, I think overall that could be a really successful season or transfer window for United. So what happens between now and the end of the window? We'll just have to wait and see. So our first game of the season is going to be against Wolves. As first games go, I don't think there is much more of an easier fixture that we could have to kick the season off. Wolves are in absolute turmoil at the moment. There is a huge amount of issues going on in terms of players they've lost, going from a very dynamic team that had a huge Portuguese influx of players and management styles. They've lost a huge amount of players between Moutinho, Paulinho, now Raul Jimenez, Nathan Collins is gone. And now they've lost a manager in Lopetegui, who, to be honest, it was shocking he went there in the first place. He's a manager with a very, very high caliber, came into a Wolves team and did quite well with them, given the struggles that they were experiencing before his arrival. And I think they'll be very sad to lose him. Bournemouth's old manager has come in, O'Neill. He did a great job with Bournemouth. Was unlucky not to get to keep the job, but foreign managers with sexier names always seem to kind of get these jobs ahead of English managers for one reason or another. Generally, I do think foreign managers have more tactical nous and are generally better than a lot of British managers. I think a lot of British managers who have come in over the last few years have been very limited and not been able to take the next step. Graham Potter being one of them. Perhaps he should have been given a little bit more time. Chelsea was a bit of a circus. But I do hope O'Neill does well with Wolves. However, I do think Wolves are really going to struggle this year, and they are one of my picks to finish in the bottom three. You can see my predictions on one of the episodes of Inside EPL, a Premier League-based podcast I do with Jer Lynch, a pal of mine. So you can see my league table predictions over there. I suggest you check it out, Inside EPL on YouTube. But as first games go, I think United are going to absolutely dismantle this Wolves team. They have too much firepower. We're at home. We have Marcus Rashford, that is starting to look like he's getting a sniff for goal again. He looked a bit lively. Having had a quiet first half, he started to look a little bit more lively in the second half against Lens. Obviously rested for the game against Bilbao in Dublin. But United are just going to have too much firepower for this Wolves team. The unfortunate thing about Rasmus Haaland's injury is that will Rashford have to be moved into the middle? Who knows? Maybe Sancho continues to play in that false nine position. He did reasonably okay there. Or is Rashford pushed into the middle? The big decision here is, do you want to see a front three of Rashford, Sancho, and Antony? Or do you want to see Rashford, Garnacho, and Antony? Personally, I would like to see Garnacho there. I think he brings a lot more to our attacking capabilities, a lot more aggression, can carry the ball slightly better, despite Sancho being known to be quite a good dribbler. His dribbling has not been that good. He's not been beating his man that many times. And Garnacho has been a game-changing difference when he's come on for United in the past. I personally would like to see Garnacho start on the left with Rashford playing through the middle with Antony on the right. However, will that happen? I'm not too sure. I think the midfield really does pick itself. I think it's quite clear that there's going to be a Fernandes, Casemiro, and Mount middle three. And in the back line, given Dalot's struggles earlier in pre-season, particularly in that Lens game where he looked very, very unassured and didn't really pass the audition to show that he should be the starting right back instead of Wan-Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka has shown great character over the last few months, given the struggles he went through at the beginning of last season and in the couple of seasons before that. It looked like he was on the transfer list. It was quite well known. We were looking at right backs, Denzel Dumfries being one of the obvious names we were linked with for quite a while. Right back was a position it seemed United wanted to work on. Dalot and Wan-Bissaka seemed to answer that call and respond. With Wan-Bissaka, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many others, winning that race to secure the right back spot. It seemed he did towards the end of last season, and given Dalot's struggles in some of the preseason games, I suspect that Aaron Wan-Bissaka is going to win that right back position and start that game against Wolves. Middle of the park really does speak for itself. I think Rafael Varane and Lisandro Martinez are going to start, as they always have. Luke Shaw, who's obviously made that left-back spot his own. I think we're going to see a lot less of him in those centre-back positions than we did last season, which is a shame because I do like Malacia. I'd like him to keep training on. Perhaps we'll see Shaw move into that centre position, but I do think another centre-half is going to be arriving and relieving Shaw of the need to kind of go into that middle position when required. At the back, Andre Onana, I think he's going to have a reasonably quiet game. I think Wolves are going to be on the back foot for a majority of the game, unless they get a chance to maybe throw a lob over him. Who knows? But I suspect that this game is going to be around 3 or 4-0 to United. It's going to be a pretty standard turn up and whip a very poor, quite deflated Wolves team and get United season started with an easy 3 points. And hopefully Marcus Rashford bags a couple of goals and gets that smell of blood early in the season and continues that form leading into the Christmas break. So fingers crossed. That's it for today, guys. Thank you very much for joining me. That's episode 1 in the bag. If you would like to see more content from me and this channel, do not forget to click subscribe, give the video a like, please, and hit that little bell icon beside the subscription button if you'd like to get instant notifications if and when these episodes are coming out. I'll be aiming to produce around 2 to 3 episodes a week, hopefully some lives as well when they happen. Who knows? So hit that bell and you'll be able to get notifications about a half an hour before new episodes are going to be released live. And I hope to see you again. Thanks for joining. Take care.